What if the story of our origin is incomplete? What if there once existed a species, neither ape nor human, that vanished without leaving a name, yet shaped everything we are today? For over a century, scientists have searched for what they call the missing link, the mysterious being that bridges the vast evolutionary gap between primitive apes and modern humans. But what if that link was never missing, only misunderstood? Imagine this: a time when the earth was wild and untamed, when great beasts like saber-toothed cats stalked the plains and volcanic ash painted the skies red. In this harsh world, somewhere between 6 and 2 million years ago, walked creatures that were not quite animals, yet not fully human. They crafted tools, walked upright, and, perhaps, gazed at the stars with wonder, asking the first question that would echo through eternity: who am I? From the fossilized bones of Australopithecus afarensis in Africa, to the shadowy DNA traces of the Denisovans hidden in Siberian caves, every discovery whispers fragments of a lost lineage. But for every answer unearthed, new questions arise. Why did some species thrive while others vanished? And could there still be unknown branches of humanity, undiscovered, buried deep beneath layers of time? In this documentary, we'll journey into the heart of prehistory. We'll explore ancient landscapes, mysterious fossils, and controversial theories that challenge everything we thought we knew about human evolution. Because to understand who we are, we must first meet the ones who came before us, the forgotten ancestors who may hold the key to the greatest mystery of all, what it truly means to be human. To trace the mystery of the missing link, we must travel back millions of years, long before history, before fire, before speech. Our journey begins in the cradle of humankind, East Africa. Here, amid the arid plains and ancient riverbeds of the Great Rift Valley, scientists have uncovered the silent witnesses of our transformation. Layers of volcanic ash preserve fragments of skulls, bones, and footprints, time capsules from an age when the world was raw and untamed. One of the earliest and most iconic discoveries came in 1974, when paleoanthropologist Donald Johanson unearthed a small skeleton in Ethiopia. She stood only about 1 meter tall, yet her bones told an astonishing story. This ancient female, later named Lucy, belonged to a species called Australopithecus afarensis, an ape-like creature that lived 3.2 million years ago. Lucy's pelvis and leg bones revealed she walked upright like us, even though her brain was only a third the size of modern humans. Lucy became a symbol, the bridge between ape and human. But as more fossils were found, the picture grew more complicated. Evolution, it seemed, wasn't a straight line. It was a tangled tree, with branches sprouting, twisting, and dying out across continents. A web of ancestors. Not long after Lucy's discovery, other fossils began to emerge. Australopithecus africanus in South Africa, Paranthropus boisei in Tanzania, Homo habilis in Kenya. Each one revealed something new. Homo habilis, nicknamed the Handyman, left behind the earliest known stone tools, crude flakes of rock used to cut meat and crack bones. He lived around 2.4 million years ago, marking one of the first leaps in intelligence, a mind beginning to shape the world. But even he was not yet us. His hands were skilled, but his form still primitive. His face jutted forward, his arms long for climbing, his brain only half the size of ours. Then came Homo erectus, taller, stronger, and far more adaptable. Appearing around 1.9 million years ago, this species spread from Africa into Asia and Europe. For the first time, our ancestors walked out of Africa, carrying fire, tools, and perhaps the beginnings of speech. Their endurance reshaped the planet. They hunted great beasts, survived ice ages, and adapted to every environment they encountered. It was Homo erectus, not yet fully human, yet no longer ape, who truly began the story of us. And yet, the question remained. Between Australopithecus and Homo erectus, between the primitive and the intelligent, what happened? The vanishing link. For decades, scientists believed there must be a single species, the missing link, that connected ape-like ancestors to the genus Homo. But no such species has ever been conclusively identified. Instead, the more fossils we find, the more complex the story becomes. In 2013, deep within a cave in South Africa, researchers made an astonishing discovery. Hidden in narrow chambers barely wide enough for a human body, they found over 2,500 fossil fragments belonging to a previously unknown species, Homo naledi. These beings lived just 250,000 years ago, shockingly recent in evolutionary terms. Yet their brains were no larger than an orange. Their hands were capable of tool-making, and their skeletons suggested they deliberately buried their dead, a behavior once thought uniquely human. How could a species so primitive coexist with early Homo sapiens? And what does it mean that they displayed intelligence despite their small brains? Each new discovery, from Homo floresiensis, the so-called hobbit of Indonesia, to the elusive Denisovans in Siberia, adds another layer to the mystery. Perhaps there was never a single missing link. Perhaps evolution was not a chain, but a web, dozens of species branching, merging, and fading into time. The ghosts in our DNA modern genetics has deepened the mystery even further. In 2010, scientists successfully sequenced the genome of a Neanderthal, revealing something shocking. Modern humans share up to 2% of their DNA with Neanderthals. Soon after, another ancient genome was discovered from a finger bone in the Denisova cave in Siberia. The DNA belonged to neither Neanderthal nor modern human, but an entirely new species, the Denisovans. Today, people of Asian and Melanesian descent carry traces of Denisovan DNA, silent echoes of ancient encounters that occurred tens of thousands of years ago. It means our ancestors didn't just replace older species, they interbred with them, blending lineages in ways we are only beginning to understand. So if our genes carry traces of other species, then perhaps we are the missing link, living hybrids of countless ancestors who once walked the earth. The puzzle that never ends. Archaeology is a story written in fragments, bone by bone, tool by tool, clue by clue. Every discovery seems to answer one question and raise three more. Why did Neanderthals vanish despite their intelligence? Why did Homo erectus thrive for nearly 2 million years, only to disappear without a trace? And why do we, Homo sapiens, remain the last survivors of this vast evolutionary experiment? Even today, entire chapters of our story are missing. There are still regions in Africa, Asia, and even under the ocean, where unknown species may lie buried, forgotten, waiting to be found. But the real question is not just what we came from. It's why we became what we are. What force drove a simple primate to become self-aware, to look up at the stars and wonder about the meaning of existence? That, perhaps, is the true missing link. Not a species, but a spark of consciousness. And somewhere in prehistory, something ignited it. Let us travel back 2.5 million years. To a world on the edge of transformation. The air is dry. Herds of ancient elephants roam across the plains. Predators with dagger-like teeth wait in the tall grass. And in the shadows, something extraordinary is happening. A creature begins to think. This is the dawn of the genus Homo. From the tangled roots of Australopithecus, a new kind of being emerges. More intelligent, more adaptable, more curious. Archaeologists call him Homo habilis, the handyman. He is small, standing just over a meter tall, but his eyes gleam with awareness. He picks up a piece of rock, strikes it with another, and creates a sharp edge. It is a simple act, but it changes everything. The sound of stone striking stone marks the first echo of technology. For the first time, a living creature has shaped nature to its will. This marks the beginning of human ingenuity, the first spark of thought that separates the tool maker from the tool user. A landscape of experimentation. Yet this moment wasn't a straight line. It wasn't one species evolving neatly into another. It was a chaotic experiment, nature's grand laboratory. Between 2.5 and 1 million years ago, Africa became home to a diversity of early human-like creatures. Homo habilis, crafting tools and scavenging carcasses. Paranthropus boisei, a robust giant with massive jaws designed for crushing tough roots. Homo rudolfensis, a mysterious form, larger-brained but poorly understood. These species coexisted, competed, and possibly even interacted, each testing different evolutionary strategies for survival. Some relied on strength and brute force. Others depended on cooperation, intelligence, and adaptability. In this struggle, one lineage would take a fateful leap, not through muscle, but through mind. The birth of fire. Then came another revolution. Somewhere, around 1.5 million years ago, Homo erectus mastered something no other creature had ever done: the control of fire. Imagine the scene: a dark night on the savannah. Lightning strikes a tree. Flames leap into the air. Every animal flees, except one group. They approach cautiously, faces flickering with orange light. They carry burning branches to their shelter, protecting the flame like a sacred treasure. With fire came warmth, safety, and cooked food. But more than that, fire brought community. For the first time, our ancestors could gather at night, share stories, and stare into the flames, seeing their own reflections. This is where imagination was born. Around the fire, humans began not just to survive, but to dream. The unknown builders, yet the story becomes even stranger. In Dmanisi, Georgia, fossils of Homo erectus dating back 1.8 million years show a young individual who had lost all but one tooth, yet lived long after. Someone must have cared for him, feeding him, protecting him. This is the earliest evidence of compassion, the first flicker of empathy in a prehistoric brain. Compassion in a being not yet human. So what was Homo erectus? A primitive ape, or the first true human? Some scientists argue that Homo erectus was the turning point, the missing link who carried the spark of humanity forward. Others say no, that he was only one branch among many, and that our true ancestors may still lie undiscovered beneath layers of ancient earth. Still, the evidence tells us something profound. Between 2 million and 300,000 years ago, multiple human-like species lived simultaneously across the globe, a true brotherhood of hominins. In Indonesia, Homo floresiensis, the hobbit, stood barely over 1 meter tall. In the Philippines, Homo luzonensis carved stone tools with delicate precision. In Siberia, the Denisovans built shelters in freezing caves, and in Africa, early Homo sapiens began to appear, carrying with them the seeds of art, language, and symbolism. The web of humanity. What we call the missing link might not be one species at all, but a network of interconnected beings, each contributing a piece to the mosaic of human evolution. Imagine a vast, evolutionary tree. At its roots, ape-like creatures swing through forests. Higher up, Australopithecus walks upright across the plains, then branches spread outward. Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo naledi, Homo floresiensis, Neanderthals, Denisovans, and finally, us. For millions of years, these branches intertwine, some dying, others merging. DNA evidence now shows that our species interbred with Neanderthals and Denisovans, creating hybrid lineages that live on in our blood today. We are not a single story. We are a chorus of ancient voices, woven together by time. An intelligence beyond survival. What made our ancestors different wasn't just their ability to walk upright or use tools. It was something deeper, the awareness of awareness itself. At some point, a mind looked at the world and realized it could change it. It could plan, imagine, and remember. This mental leap, this emergence of symbolic thought, is the foundation of what we now call being human. Archaeologists find hints of this awakening in strange places: shells pierced with holes, the first jewelry, patterns carved into bones, the first art, burials with flowers and ochre, the first evidence of belief. These were not acts of survival, they were acts of meaning. And perhaps, somewhere among these acts, the true missing link lies. Not a fossil in the ground, but a transformation in consciousness. The mysterious gap. Still, the transition remains elusive. Between Homo erectus and Homo sapiens, there's a shadowed chapter, an unexplained gap in the fossil record. We have hints: skull fragments in Morocco, jawbones in Ethiopia, footprints in Kenya, each revealing pieces of an invisible puzzle. Some species, like Homo heidelbergensis, might have been the bridge, an ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans. But no single discovery has yet shown the full picture. The missing link, it seems, refuses to be found, as if nature itself guards the secret of our becoming. And so the question lingers, whispered by wind through ancient valleys and deserts. What if that missing species still lies buried somewhere, waiting to rewrite the story of humanity? Or, more provocatively, what if the missing link is not missing at all, but lives within us, in the primal instincts and ancient memories that echo through every heartbeat? For centuries, scientists, explorers, and dreamers have sought the missing link as if it were a holy grail, the one fossil that would neatly connect ape and human. But what they found instead was far stranger and far more unsettling. A fragmented history that refuses to fit into a straight line. Evolution, it seems, was not a single step, but a storm of experimentation. The great debate: what makes us human? When Charles Darwin first proposed the idea of evolution in The Descent of Man, 1871, he suggested that humans and apes shared a common ancestor. It was a radical idea, one that shook the foundations of religion, philosophy, and identity. If humans were not divinely created in a single moment but gradually evolved through time, then who was the first us? Early scientists began searching for physical proof. In 1891, a Dutch anatomist named Eugène Dubois discovered a fossil skull cap on the banks of the Solo River in Java, Indonesia. He called it Pithecanthropus erectus, upright ape man. Today we know it as Homo erectus. Dubois believed he had found the missing link. But critics accused him of fraud, claiming the fossil was merely an ape or a deformed human. Decades later, more fossils from Africa, China, and Europe proved Dubois right. But by then, the concept of a single link had begun to unravel. Too many links, not enough answers. By the 20th century, dozens of transitional species had been identified: Australopithecus africanus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo naledi, Homo floresiensis, Homo luzonensis. The list kept growing. Instead of one missing link, we found a constellation of ancestors, overlapping in time, scattered across continents, each carrying fragments of humanity. What this means is profound. Human evolution was not a linear ladder, but a tangled tree, where different species evolved simultaneously, sometimes interbreeding, sometimes competing, often disappearing without a trace. So when people ask, what is the missing link, the real answer might be, there isn't one, because every link we find only leads to another mystery. The ghost lineages. In recent years, Advances in genetic archaeology have revealed something extraordinary, that even our DNA contains traces of beings we've never seen. Scientists call them ghost lineages, unknown species that once bred with humans or their ancestors, leaving behind invisible fingerprints in our genes. One example, populations in West Africa carry DNA from an ancient hominin that doesn't match any known fossil. It's neither Neanderthal nor Denisovan. It's something entirely different, possibly a lineage that split off over 1 million years ago. It's as if a shadow species once walked among us, intelligent, hidden, and now completely vanished. We may never know what they looked like, but they live on, inside us. So perhaps the missing link is not missing at all. Perhaps it never died. The intelligence paradox. But even with fossils and DNA, one question remains unanswered. When did intelligence truly begin? Some researchers argue that tool use, language, and social cooperation gradually evolved, a slow accumulation of advantages over time. Others believe there was a quantum leap, a sudden spark that transformed mere animals into conscious beings. What triggered it? Some theories point to environmental pressure, droughts, migrations, and climate shifts, forcing early humans to adapt creatively. Others suggest it was diet, the discovery of cooked food and protein that fueled brain growth. Still others turn to genetics, arguing that a mutation in the FOXP2 gene might have given rise to complex speech. But a few scientists, and some philosophers, hint at something more mysterious, that consciousness itself might not be a mere byproduct of biology, but a fundamental property of the universe. What if the missing link wasn't a species, but a state of awareness, a point when matter first looked at itself and said, "I am alive"? The forbidden theories. And then there are the theories that blur the line between science and speculation, the ones that question whether evolution alone can explain the leap from ape to human. Some alternative researchers propose that an unknown intervention occurred, not divine creation but perhaps something else, a manipulation, a hybridization, or even a forgotten civilization that influenced early humans. Ancient Sumerian texts speak of the Anunnaki, beings who created mankind from clay. Other myths from Africa and South America describe gods who breathed life into early people. Of course, mainstream science rejects these as metaphor. Yet the persistence of such stories across cultures hints that ancient humans sensed something extraordinary about their origins. Could they have been remembering, in symbolic form, an event long forgotten, a merging of species, a sudden rise of consciousness, or an encounter that changed evolution's path forever? We may never know for certain. But the idea remains tantalizing, that perhaps the missing link isn't just biological, it's mythological, encoded in the collective memory of humanity. The last survivors. As time passed, one species began to outlast all the others. By 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens were the only surviving branch of a once vast evolutionary tree. The Neanderthals of Europe disappeared. The Denisovans of Asia vanished. Even the mysterious Homo floresiensis faded into legend. We became the last human standing. But why? Was it our intelligence? Our adaptability? Our ability to cooperate? Or was it something more ruthless? Our tendency to dominate, to outcompete, to erase every rival? Some scientists believe the extinction of other species wasn't just natural selection. It was genocide. We didn't just inherit the earth, we took it. That's an uncomfortable thought, because it suggests that the missing link between ape and human may not be missing at all. It may be our capacity for both creation and destruction, the echo of the ancestors. And yet fragments of them remain, the shape of our hands, the curve of our skulls, the instincts buried deep in our DNA. When we stare into the fire, when we gather together to tell stories, when we imagine gods, futures, and stars, we are continuing the same impulse that began millions of years ago. The missing link isn't just behind us, it's within us. Every act of compassion, curiosity, or violence carries echoes of our prehistoric past. We are walking fossils, living museums of evolution, haunted by the memory of beings who shaped us and then disappeared into the dust. So when we look at a cave painting, or a stone tool, or a burial site from the Ice Age, we are not just looking at history. We are looking at ourselves, reflected through time. And maybe the real mystery isn't how apes became humans, but how humans have yet to remember what they once were. The story of the missing link is not just a scientific puzzle, it's a mirror. When we look back into prehistory, we are not simply studying fossils and bones. We are studying ourselves. Every discovery, every skull fragment, every ancient tool carved from stone reveals more than evolutionary data. It reveals something deeper, the long, uncertain journey of consciousness, a journey from survival to meaning. The ancient within us. Close your eyes and imagine standing on a prehistoric plain. The wind carries the scent of earth and smoke. In the distance, your ancestors move through the grass, cautious, alert, yet curious. They do not know who they are. They have no language to describe their fears, their hopes, their dreams. But they feel them. They sense the same things we do: hunger, danger, love, belonging. Their world was simpler, but their instincts, their emotions, their intelligence were the seeds of our own. Every time you feel the urge to explore, to build, to protect your family, to seek knowledge, that is the voice of millions of years speaking through you. The missing link is not only a bridge in evolution, it's the connection between who we were and who we are. We carry prehistory within our cells, in our DNA, our reflexes, our fears, even in the way we dream. When you feel afraid of the dark, that's the echo of ancient nights filled with predators. When fire mesmerizes you, it's because your ancestors once sat around flames finding warmth and safety there. When you seek community, art, and meaning, it's because long before civilization, humans survived not just through strength, but through connection. The power of adaptation. The missing link teaches us one of evolution's greatest lessons: adapt or vanish. From Australopithecus to Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, every step forward was driven by adaptation, not just to the environment, but to change itself. Our ancestors faced droughts, volcanic winters, ice ages, and extinction. Yet they endured, not because they were the strongest, but because they could learn. When the world shifted, they shifted with it. They learned to use fire, to shape tools, to cooperate, to dream. Every crisis they faced forced a transformation, and from that transformation came progress. And now, thousands of generations later, we stand on the edge of our own evolutionary test. The threats are no longer saber-toothed cats or freezing nights, but our own creations: technology, greed, and disconnection. The world is changing faster than ever. Climate shifts, artificial intelligence, pandemics, and societal collapse all challenge what it means to be human. Will we adapt once more, or become another vanished species in the story of Earth? The missing link reminds us that survival is not about dominance. It's about harmony, learning to live with change, not against it. The forgotten wisdom of the ancestors. For all our technology, we often forget the wisdom that kept our ancestors alive. They understood something we have lost, a sense of belonging to the earth. To them, every tree, river, and mountain was sacred. They didn't see themselves as separate from nature. They were part of it. When they hunted, they offered thanks. When they built shelters, they respected the land. They knew that survival was a relationship, not a conquest. That ancient understanding, the bond between human and planet, is perhaps the most important link we've broken. We evolved from the earth, not above it. Yet somewhere in our rise we forgot the very soil that birthed us. We became the only species capable of destroying its own home. But if we truly listen to the whispers of prehistory, we may find that the answer to our modern crisis isn't in more progress. It's in remembering the balance, remembering the gratitude, remembering the humility that once kept us alive. The evolution of the mind. There's another form of evolution still happening, not in our bones, but in our minds. Our ancestors evolved physically to survive. Now, we must evolve consciously to coexist. This new phase of evolution isn't about biology. It's about awareness. It's about expanding our empathy, our understanding, our unity. The Neanderthals, Denisovans, and others didn't fail because they were inferior. They simply couldn't adapt to the world's rapid change. Today, the greatest danger to our species is not nature, it's ourselves, our greed, our division, our forgetfulness. If the missing link between ape and human was the leap to self-awareness, then perhaps the next missing link is the leap to collective awareness, a humanity that finally understands it is one organism, sharing one fragile planet. We have inherited the minds of gods and the instincts of animals. Which one we choose to follow will decide our future. What we can learn. So what can we learn from the millions of years behind us? That progress is fragile. That every species believes it will last forever until the earth moves beneath its feet. That intelligence alone doesn't guarantee survival. What saves a species isn't domination, but adaptation, empathy, and awareness. The missing link isn't a fossil waiting to be dug up. It's a reminder that every generation stands on the edge between what was and what can be. Just as our ancestors once looked into the fire and saw the unknown future, we now stare into the glowing light of our screens, our new fire, and wonder what will emerge from us next. A reflection for the present. In the end, the story of evolution is the story of transformation. The ape became man, the man became thinker, the thinker became creator, and now the creator must become guardian. Every choice we make, from how we treat the planet to how we treat each other, shapes the next chapter of our evolution. Will we rise toward greater consciousness, or will we repeat the same patterns that erased those before us? Our ancestors survived ice ages, famine, and extinction, but their greatest gift to us wasn't fire, or tools, or language. It was resilience, the courage to adapt, to wonder, to begin again. And that same courage lives in us still. Because perhaps the real missing link isn't between ape and human, but between what we are and what we could become. When we search for the missing link, we are really searching for ourselves, for the silent bridge that connects flesh to spirit, instinct to imagination, survival to consciousness. It's easy to think of evolution as something that happened long ago, buried in the past. But the truth is, it's still unfolding, right now, within us. Each heartbeat carries the rhythm of a million ancestors. Each breath we take is a continuation of that long experiment, the same fragile spark that once flickered in a prehistoric cave and refused to die. The endless puzzle. For over a century, scientists have sifted through dust and bone, hoping to find that one perfect fossil, the missing link that would tie the story together. But perhaps that search will never end, because evolution itself is not a story of perfection. It's a story of transformation. We are not the end of a straight line. We are the latest chapter in a book still being written, one shaped by chaos, creativity, and chance. A species that once hunted with stone and fire now gazes into galaxies and builds machines that think. And yet, beneath all the progress, the same primal questions remain. Who are we? Where did we come from? Why are we here? Maybe those questions are the true mark of humanity, the sign that consciousness, once awakened, can never stop wondering. The mystery, still beneath our feet. Even today, the Earth hides secrets of forgotten species that may forever change our understanding of human evolution. In caves sealed for millions of years, in desert sands and under frozen tundra, the bones of unknown ancestors wait. Silent witnesses of who we were before we called ourselves human. Perhaps one day a fossil will be unearthed that bridges the final gap, the being that was both ape and man, both animal and dreamer. But even then, another mystery will emerge, because the moment we find the link between past and present, we must face a greater question. What comes next? The mirror of humanity. Every discovery in archaeology doesn't just rewrite history. It redefines what it means to be alive. When we found Lucy, we didn't just find bones. We found courage, a being who dared to walk upright into an uncertain world. When we found Homo erectus, we found invention, a mind that tamed fire and shaped the first tools. When we found the Neanderthals and Denisovans, we found family, proof that we were never alone, that even in prehistory, humanity existed as a chorus, not a solo. And when we look in the mirror today, we find all of them looking back, every ancestor who lived, fought, and dreamed so that we could exist. We are their legacy. Their story continues in our eyes, our minds, our endless hunger to understand. The eternal question. So was there truly a missing link? A species between ape and man that changed everything? Maybe. Or maybe we are that link, suspended between what we once were and what we are still becoming. Each generation is another bridge, connecting the primitive to the possible, the known to the unknown. The question isn't whether the missing link existed in the past, but whether we will become the missing link of the future, the ones who evolve into something greater, more conscious, more connected. Evolution didn't stop with bone and muscle. It now continues in thought, empathy, and imagination. And perhaps one day, when another species looks back on us, buried beneath their own layers of time, they'll ask the same question we do now. What were they searching for when they first looked up at the stars? Final words. The missing link isn't buried in the ground. It lives in the fire of human curiosity, the same fire that burned in the eyes of our ancestors as they faced the unknown. It's in every question we ask, every mystery we chase, every step we take toward understanding our place in the cosmos. Because to seek the missing link is to seek the soul of humanity itself. So the next time you stare into the mirror, remember, you are looking at a creature millions of years in the making, a being shaped by time, chance, and wonder, a story still unfolding. And maybe, just maybe, you are the link that connects the past to the future. Call to action. If this journey into our forgotten origins moved you, don't let it end here. Like, share, and subscribe, and join us again as we uncover more secrets of prehistory, evolution, and the untold mysteries of humanity. Because the story of who we are is far from finished.